pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting, October 25th, 2022. Is there any changes to the agenda?
I have none.
Meet with department heads and elected officials. Clerk Doty, payroll clerk, auditor's office.
Good morning. Just keeping busy as usual. Nothing new to report at this time.
Okay, thank you. Colin Curtis, IT department.
Just keeping busy, rolling out some new equipment, but nothing new to report, so.
Okay, thank you. Sheriff Lynn Denny.
Good morning. Another busy week for us as well. We tested this past Saturday, had our standard turnout, but had some really good applicants show up. We have 2 certified on our list and a total of 7 on that list for potential hires. So kind of the numbers we expected, but really good applicants. We're happy to have them for sure. So we're going to do civil service interviews starting next Tuesday. So they will certify a list after those interviews, and they will be up for hire when we have that position come open with Lieutenant Williams' retirement at the first of the year. So just preparing for that, and excited to have the list that we have. We had, I think it was Wednesday night, we had a smoke alarm go off out of the jail. The smoke was in our GP unit, and had to move everybody out of there. That's 30 inmates, move them into some adjacent workout rooms, gymnasiums, and the staff did amazing out there. The thing I wanted to note is Rodney's staff, they responded. They were able to very quickly identify what went wrong, what happened. It was a blower motor that lost a bearing. I don't pretend to know what I'm talking about on these things, but they were able to identify it really quickly. Our problem was we had to exhaust all the smoke out of there, and that was a cold night, so it was bringing in cold air. With that, they were able to make contact with Industrial Motors, and the owner of Industrial Motors came in, fixed the bearing, required some special tools, but just a great response from Rodney and his crew, and then thanks to Industrial Motors for fixing that so we could get the heat back up and get our inmates back where they needed to be. Another thing I want to mention was we had some communication issues between our new phone system, that provider, and a provider for Burlington, and basically there were some issues with routing the phone calls, and it just wasn't really going well. Unfortunately, Colin was left out of the loop on that, and I looped him in, and literally within hours he was able to get that fixed with a little bit of communication. So they've been working on that for quite some time, but Colin was able to quickly fix that just with a little bit of knowledge of IP addresses and why things weren't working. And again, don't pretend to know what I'm talking about there. But Colin did, and it's nice to have that kind of knowledge to fix those kind of situations, so it's just much appreciated. But other than that, that's all I've got.
How's the jail population?
I didn't look at it this morning. We had a department meeting this morning, but we were 103 last night with 33 out of county.
Thank you.
Yep.
Rodney, how's the maintenance department?
Doing good. As Kevin said, we had that issue last week out there at the jail, and my guys did a great job, so kind of kept me on the loop. They kind of took care of it, and like I say, everything went pretty quickly and got it all fixed up, so they all did a great job. We had the pre-bid meeting for the jail projects last Tuesday. So once again, we got those projects are out for bid. If anybody's interested in that, there's a link on the county website where they go to the Klinger Plan Room, check those out. Also attended the Economic Recovery Support Tabletop exercise last week. So just keeping busy.
Good. Thanks, Rodney. Terry Johnson, County Auditor. I know
Good
you're
morning.
busy.
2 weeks to E-Day, so we're staying pretty busy with all the absentee voters coming to the counter. Yesterday we had 140 at the counter. Last Friday 125. So, and also on top of that, we had 99 voters hand hand deliver their ballots, because obviously they don't trust the mail system. Today is what we call No Mail Tuesday. We rarely ever get any mail anymore, which makes me kind of concerned, you know, especially, you know, anybody that mails their ballot, we're supposed to receive it by 8 p.m. on Tuesday, and so they hand deliver them. I don't have a problem with that. We're up to 2,770 absentees that have either voted in person or requested to be mailed. 2,125 of those are still out there. And compare that to the numbers from 4 years ago, we're down 4,152. So I hope all 4,000 of those people don't decide to come to the counter the next few days, because we've had a few disgusted faces standing there waiting in line. It's kind of like we can only work so fast, and then plus we've got a table out there that tells everybody, fill out this form before you go to the counter. And then you get a few that go to the counter, and it's kind of like, no, you have to fill out one of those forms because the state does not allow us to use our little stickers off of our precinct atlas program. You have to hand fill it in yourself and make sure you fill it out completely and make sure you sign and date that form. So we have our rules that we have to follow, so. Other than that, just getting everything ready. It'll be a week from tomorrow, November the 2nd. We're gonna have our poll worker training, and we're gonna do that out at Pizzazz and have them all there in one location at one time, instead of trying to do 3 separate trainings. So then that way we remember telling everybody the same thing, so. So we're just busy with the elections and trying to do our own work in the office, so.
I think yesterday when I was in here, you said you had 140 people. I think 100 of them was out in that hall line, all the way back to the recorder's
Yeah,
office when I
there's,
came in.
yep, there's occasions, and it kind of scares you because 2 years ago, of course, that was a presidential, but on the very last day, the day before the election, we had 515 people at the counter. That's a lot of people out in the hallway.
Yeah.
I mean, not all at the same time, of course, but, yeah, people expect they're just gonna run in here at lunch and vote and get right out. Allow a little bit of time, please, and be patient.
I'd like to take some of them pre-app things they have to fill out, just run them down to Stephanie down there and have her to fill them out down there, and then she can bring them up. She doesn't like that, I can tell by the look on her face.
Stephanie.
Or Natalie.
Natalie.
I don't know why I said Stephanie.
He's looking at you.
That's a double
We
whammy.
can have her, when the line backs up to her end, she can turn around and say, hey, fill out this form.
Yeah,
before you get there.
right.
So,
I can hear her teeth grinding.
yeah.
We'll help in any way we can, but we don't know what to say, so.
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
Sometimes they wanna come down and vote, and we're like, you wanna register a vote? No, they wanna
Yeah.
vote.
And that's why whenever they come up and say vote or vote, it's kind of like, elections? No, or recreational? Okay, that's what you want, the other end, so, yeah, that's the fun part, so.
Okay, thank you. Jared, Southeast Iowa Regional Planning.
Morning. Land use is pretty much just keeping busy as usual. We had a minor subdivision up for review now. We're moving ahead to get ready for the public hearings on the amendment to the airport regulations, which we discussed at a recent work session, and just plugging ahead with draft ordinances for wind and solar as well. So just keeping busy as normal.
Okay, thanks, Jared. Natalie?
We all need to wear neat name
I thought
tags.
I'd do that for her, just see what she'd say. Janelle?
Good morning. We're keeping busy, getting ready to mail delinquent notices at the beginning of next week, so other than that, just, like I said, keeping busy, both sides.
Okay, thank you. Lisa? How's the attorney's office?
Staying busy as well. I approved almost a dozen warrants yesterday morning, so there you go. We'll just leave it at that. Primarily for simple misdemeanor offenses. We're seeing a lot of just petty crimes where we're having to obtain warrants and then fill Kevin's jail, so. But there's about a dozen, just like you know. Last week, we had a trial on the West Burlington pool shooting. It did not go as I had hoped. But the reason I mention it was we proceeded with that trial without the participation of the victim or his family. So I just want to stress the importance to the public of how much we need them to do our job. In this particular case, we did have one eyewitness, but basically the defendant could testify to whatever and did, and we had nothing to refute it because the victim absolutely refused to participate. And in doing so, so did family members who were there and were also eyewitnesses to the event. So again, just stressing the importance of, while we know it's an imposition to participate in the prosecutorial system, we can only put on evidence that we get from those people. We can't just come in and say this is what we think happened and then ask for a jury to convict. And finally, we had our domestic violence awareness vigil Thursday night. Wanted to thank all three of you for attending, Kevin for sending Sergeant Hamma. It was actually a beautiful night and we had some really good participation. So wanted to thank all of you for being there and participating. And then I have a murder trial next week.
Okay.
And my victim, well, he's participating, sort of.
We're not the murder victim.
Via the medical examiner's office.
Them was some awesome cookies you had too, wasn't it?
They're great cookies.
I think
Lisa,
he
you
had
did
a
a great
pocket
job.
full of cookies when he left.
I have to thank
don't
my
know.
staff, my victim witness coordinators, Lisa Harris and Diana Schnaden did 95% of the work on that with Chad Zahn's help from the police department. So I would love to take credit, but no, it was the work of my staff. They did a really nice job.
Well, thank them too. Okay. Jeff, how's conservation?
Good morning. We'll start buttoning parks up after this weekend for winter. We'll keep the 4th and Big Hollow open for another 2 or 3 weeks till we start getting sustained freezes overnight, and then we'll shut the waters off and button them up. Other than that, we've got a work session later, so that's about all I have.
Okay, thank you. Brian Carter, secondary roads.
Good morning. Plenty of stuff going on, but the project up on Dry Branch, that's coming along. If you've been through there, they've made a lot of progress. A lot of dirt got been hauled and it's really shaping up so you can kind of see how things are gonna lay in there. Obviously the rain will slow that down just a little bit, but they have some more dirt to haul, but not a lot. So that's good to see. I think they were gonna move traffic control back over to the other lane today to start working on the other half of the patches that need to be done. So there'll be a little shift over. I don't think much moves other than which lane the traffic's gonna drive through. Still kind of thing where the lights work fine 99% of the time, and then there's a glitch. For typically one cycle is what we've seen. For some reason, it's at the White Camp intersection, and we have something's happening. Somebody's not intentionally, but somebody's messing it up. Whether they pull up and then they don't wait, so they go ahead and it meshes the sensors up or something, and then the next cycle it's fine. You can't even get to the site in time to see it not functioning right. So I think people have adjusted. I appreciate their patience because it's, in general, everything's working okay down there. But so that's going on. I had hoped they would button up the one lane traffic control this week, but I suspect that could be, I would guess that'll go into next week, especially now with the rain. But we'll see when that is. I'm sure you guys are aware, but the DOT shifted all the traffic maybe a week or two ago up on 61. So most of it's now on the same lane at least. There's not nearly as much crossing over. I know there was a very major accident up there towards the end of last week. That's really unfortunate. You just really got to pay attention still up in there. I think people probably get into the same habit, and then when they move traffic over, it just, you got to readjust yourself. But so anyway, that's changing up there. I think 160th Street, the intersection with the county road is closed right at the moment. They needed 2 or 3 weeks. The DOT's contractor needed 2 or 3 weeks to do some work in that area. So that intersection's closed. We did a press release once we knew that. We did not have enough advance warning to let any landowners know. So I'm sure there were a few folks that were caught off guard. Wish I could change that, but that's not the way that goes. So got interviews this week for an open motor grader position. So hopefully we can extend an offer sometime this week for that and start working towards getting full staff again, which has been a while. Other than that, plenty of stuff going on. We are doing a patch, right near Kevin's, on Flint Bottom Road. So if you are trying to cut the back way to the ethanol plant or whatever it might be, we do have our lights set up because of the volume of traffic down there. So just as a heads up, we've got them turned down to fairly short cycle, but I sat through it yesterday, and once you sit through the 99 lights and then sit through that, you're ready to not sit through any more lights, but you're gonna have to survive for a little bit longer. So anyway, still getting stuff done.
Thank you.
Yep.
Natalie, how's the recorder's office doing?
Good morning, we're good in the recorder's office, just business as usual.
Thank you. How's the safety department?
Busy, but we're doing okay, we're holding our own, so,
Holding your own?
yeah.
That's
Don't
good.
have much to report other than that, but yeah.
Thanks, Andy. Okay, I don't think I missed anybody. Moving on to correspondence. I have a letter here. Dear Supervisors, this letter is my official notification of retirement, and my last day of employment as the Des Moines County Auditor will be December the 30th. I'm excited about my impending retirement, but wanted to take this opportunity to thank everyone for all the opportunities that I have experienced serving the Des Moines County residents. It has been educational, eventful, fun, and sad at times, but I have enjoyed my employment through the 28 and a half years I have worked for the county. I would say the current Board of Supervisors ranks in the top 2 as a group of supervisors that I have, man, you're gonna choke me up here, supervisors that I have had pleasure enjoyed to work with. I will miss my office family and many other co-workers when my retirement days arrive. I feel the county will be in good hands, and many of the county employees truly care about the residents and the county's daily business. It will be up to the board's decision how to fill my position. However, I highly recommend appointing a replacement to fill my position, save the taxpayers the expense of a special election, as the position will be on the ballot in 2024. Bless everyone, and a big thank you to Des Moines County. Cordially, Terry Johnson.
Wow.
Terry, that's I would love to read.
Now it's getting real. She said she wasn't gonna leave unless I came down. Bless her heart. Thank you, Terry.
Do you have to approve that?
Rejected.
Well, I don't think I get any votes.
Access denied.
This is just something we received. We do have to vote on it though.
No, you don't have
No,
to
you
vote
don't.
on it, it's
No, you
just
don't.
correspondence.
No, you
Okay,
It's just letting you know.
I received it.
A lot of people have known for a long time, and I'm
Yeah.
just making it official.
We brought that up once to somebody that had retired, and they told us to go to hell when we voted against it. I have some correspondence as well. Not as dramatic as that. I think you guys might have received this. Dear Des Moines County Supervisors, I wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for offering the Stars Cave Nature Center summer camps. It's such a great opportunity for kids to enjoy nature, discover the trails and caves, and learn about animal habitats. Kelly Rundle, is it Rundle or Rundell?
Rundle.
Kelly Rundle is a great asset to the programs. My granddaughter attended a camp this summer and absolutely loved it. I felt fortunate that I was able to get a spot for her as the camps fill up within minutes of the camp signups going live. I've not gotten a spot in the past due to their popularity. Is there a way you could have more camp offerings due to the fact there are many more kids that would love the opportunity to attend, but spots are limited? I feel that getting out in nature is good for children's physical and mental health. As a bonus, it keeps them off electronic devices. Our community is so lucky to have all these beautiful parks in our area. We visit them during each season and enjoy nature's changes. Karen Russell, Burlington, Iowa. And that's all I had.
Same thing here. Okay, moving on to discussion and vote. I've read something, Tom's read something. Would you like to read this, Mr. Campbell?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Red Ribbon Week proclamation. I forgot to grab the red ribbon. Whereas in October of 1985, federal agent Kiki Camarena was murdered by the drug cartel in Mexico in the line of duty. And friends and neighbors wore red to honor his memory and to show that they would continue his fight against illegal drugs, believing that one person can make a difference. And whereas the problems associated with alcohol, tobacco, and the use of illegal drugs have become prevalent in every community regardless of size and location. Whereas the National Family Partnership was established October 23rd through October 31st of every year is America's Red Ribbon Week for schools and communities to celebrate a healthy drug-free lifestyle. And whereas ADS in partnership with area businesses and schools has adopted the mission statement to increase the focus of promoting a healthy lifestyle through the collective effort and involvement of all citizens in our community by supporting the non-use of illegal drugs and responsible use of legal substances, thus enhancing the quality of life through a safer community. And now therefore, as 2022 marks the 37th year for this nationally recognized substance abuse prevention campaign, we, the supervisors of Des Moines County, do hereby proclaim October 23rd through 31st as Red Ribbon Week in Des Moines County, and that all citizens shall be encouraged to wear a red ribbon to symbolize our commitment to establishing drug-free communities for our citizens, especially our children, and to participate in events throughout the week that support a healthy, drug-free lifestyle. So until this 25th day of October 22.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Sarah?
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Jim Carrey.
Yes. We have a personnel action for the correctional center. Okay. It's for Elizabeth Robestitch? Robestitch, okay. It's a anniversary date, 12-month step increase, $42,429.10 to $43,501.25.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Sarah?
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Jim Carrey.
Yes. We have the minutes for the regular meeting on October the 18th, 2022.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Sarah?
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Jim Carrey.
Yes. Do you have any other business, gentlemen?
I have none.
I have none. Future agenda items? I've got a letter here from, I don't know if we'll have her call, it's from Krista. She couldn't make it today. And she stated in here that she wants to have a workstation on vaping. So, but she'll have to get a hold of you and let you know what she's gonna do that. Committee reports.
I attended the emergency management tabletop exercise that Rodney mentioned. The scenario was was a derecho that essentially flattened Burlington, West Burlington. And it focused on economic recovery immediately after the event, a couple months after the event, several months later, and the impacts and changes that would make to not only county functions, but individuals and businesses. And discussion on was immediate issues like restoring power and transportation, and subsequent effects like loss of businesses, loss of housing, loss of population. And it was based on the Cedar Rapids event a few years ago, and it was posed some sobering and thought-provoking issues, what you do in a situation like that. So I thought that was very good. And attended a Hope Haven's annual awards banquet. That's always a feel-good affair. That's all I have.
I had a workforce development board meeting. We're just getting ready to select new officers, and we've got something going on in Des Moines. We're gonna be checking out the new headphones and all that stuff, or the new virtual reality stuff, checking all that out, so that's coming up next month. I do wanna bring up the domestic violence vigil. Fantastic job, and you really did a good job, Lisa. I'm not even gonna say this again. Oh, this is recorded. Good job, Lisa. It was really good, it really was. I'm surprised that there weren't, it was a nice crowd, but I was really expecting even more people, but it was fantastic.
We were competing, I think, against every choir in the southeast Iowa, was the big fall concert night, so.
There you go. And also, speaking at the schools last week, and it was interesting, Notre Dame was the first one that we had to do, and what was the first question that they asked me? Highway 99, where's Brian Carter? I said, can you do something about that? I said, what is this meeting about? What are we here for? But anyways, I just thought that was interesting. When I got on, you said, most of your complaints are probably gonna be directed toward me. That was the very first one. I just wanted to bring that up. And then the Burlington schools, they wanted to complain about Highway 99. I said, everybody lives on Highway 99 now. We've got that.
Like I said, remind them we could close it. I mean, we did the best we can to keep
I gave him the good news. I gave him the old left hook. I said, he left one lane open for you.
Yeah.
So everybody was grateful with that, but the kids had interesting questions. I think that's all I got.
I had a Board of Health meeting, and we, not much new on Board of Health outside. They talked about vaping, you know, was one to have a workstation on vaping. And we talked about, Chris is on that committee for out the orders plant, where that flume's moving.
Oh, the restoration.
Restoration.
Yeah, whatever, yeah.
And they're gonna start testing that again here within another week or so, the wells on there. So it's got RDX, whatever RDX is, it's something to do with the atomic energy when they had line one out there, so. And I did attend the Hope Haven, and I'll tell you people, if you're missing a chance to just go see something so great as what Hope Haven does for these individuals that are mentally challenged. I truly enjoyed it, and you'll get a few laughs out of it. One of the kids come up last night, he works for Hy-Vee in Fort Madison. He come up and they said, do you want to speak? And he gave a little speak about where he works. I like where I work. And he says, come on down, the food's really good. I thought that was great, but, and that's all I had. So, public input, we'll give public 2 minutes to call in, 319-753-8203, extension 4. Or email board@dmcounty.com. That's 319-753-8203, extension 4, or board@dmcounty.com. We'll give you 2 minutes. Does anybody in here have anything they want to add or forgot? Good to see you, Mr. Strauss, the mayor of Danville.
I see we're up to 5 viewers on WebEx, so that probably still doesn't put us in the reimbursement range.
You need a couple more probably. I didn't look, what was it, number? Yeah, 5 current viewers, 9 total views.
see our director of the conservation come in. Do you have anything you wanna say during the 2 minutes station?
No, I'll probably talk about here after the meeting.
We do have our bid opening coming up for the Bridgeport paving job. That'll be, I want to say November 4th, but 3rd or 4th, I can't remember, anyway, it's Friday. So that's coming along.
I guess maybe I could add one thing. So I just came from a meeting, so it's the Great Places Committee, so the city of Burlington, Chamber, a bunch of other organizations are looking at getting a new Great Places designation for an area kind of centered on downtown Burlington, but it's gonna expand out farther than that likely. There's a public survey out there right now that you can find through the downtown Facebook page or the city's website. We encourage all residents, not just of Burlington, but of the county, to take that survey if you can. We really want to get a lot of responses on that, to kind of get the public sentiment for what they see our community being in the next 10 to 20 years.
Chris, and I apologize. I didn't hear you really clearly, and I don't know whether that would affect anybody online. If you wanted to please repeat that
Yeah.
about the survey.
Yeah, sure. Lori did tell me to talk loud, so she said she wasn't gonna be here today because she can't hear me on this thing. So the Great Places Committee is doing a survey of the public, not just of Burlington, but of Des Moines County, to try to see what the citizens around here really want our community to be in the next 10 to 20 years. And so if you can get on there and take that survey, you can find it on the City of Burlington's website, you can find it on Downtown's Facebook page. I think we've got it posted on our Facebook page. And so get on there. They're gonna have that open through the middle of November. It's just a couple questions. It's kind of sorting a list of different themes that we want to see from the community. But we really want to get a lot of feedback on that, because that community input is really important for this designation process. And then that makes us, both city and county and any entities included in this designation area, eligible for grants and funding in the future.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, our 2 minutes is up, so with an aye, we're out of here.
Aye.
Aye. We do have a work session with supervisors, City of Danville, Conservation Board, and the county attorney. So, about Waters Park. And we'll give about a 5-minute break here, and then we'll go do that. Okay, welcome to the work session, Board of Supervisors, City of Danville, Conservation Department, County Attorney, regarding Waters Park. So Trent, we'll turn this over to you, you're the one that's been doing the work on it.
Okay, well, kind of background and history, I'll do that, and Ryan's kind of really did took it from there, so, kind of Waters Park, right there, I'd say on the edge of Danville, but it's contiguous to Danville, it's in the county though, was gifted to county conservation in 1970, I believe early 70s, to be used as a roadside park, and has remained so ever since then. In the past, county conservation has come to Danville, and Danville's, they've kind of come together, wanting to transfer the park to the city of Danville. The city's maintained it off and on, has been maintaining it based off of the 28E agreement we put together last year. And has made significant improvements. They've cleared a lot, redone the fence. They've put in some new cement pads. I mean, Frank could talk to that in much more detail, I'm sure. And they've wanted to take ownership of that. In the past, the concern's been that the transferring document had a reversionary interest stated in it, that if it was no longer to be held by county conservation and for a roadside park, to allow camping, that it would then revert to the family. And then when you pulled that through to the reversionary interest to the family, last to die was the spouse, the wife, and her will gave a portion to Iowa Wesleyan. So last time somebody tried to transfer Waters Park, the remaining family members, which would have been Paul and his wife, the Drinkles, were contacted and they were fine with it. And Iowa Wesleyan at the time, this was prior to their kind of bankruptcy scare, we'll call it that. But they were like, no, whatever financial interest could be gleaned from this, we need to do it. And so that's why we decided, well, let's just transfer this kind of responsibility via 28E. This works, it gets everything done, and we've done that. But the county or the city wants the park. County conservation doesn't particularly want it. And Ryan has found code section 61424, which deals specifically with what's referred to in property law parlance as dead hand control.
Is what?
Dead hand control. So documents such as this, that in common law, reversionary interest would last forever. And it wouldn't have been subject to the rule against perpetuities in common law because it was a reversion. This code section deals with that. And you want to talk that piece, Ryan?
Yeah, it's fairly straightforward. Let's see, 624, for 61424 is the Sale, Use, and Reversion Act. Reverter clauses, any sort of reversionary interest is good for 21 years. And then it's not good anymore unless it's renewed. It's pretty standard in property law. Any restricted covenants are subject to the same rule. It's commonly applied really across all areas of the law. Pretty fundamental, real property principle. We're not making any giant leaps here in logic. So to the extent there was a reversionary interest, which is sort of debatable, when I looked into it, I tried to just track through the transferring documents. The property was transferred by quitclaim deed in 1975 to the county outright, not subject to any sort of recorded interest. Really, the only indication that there was a reverter was in a land management agreement executed at the same time that Trent gave me. It wasn't recorded, so, you know, for that reason, it it arguably wouldn't, you know, be effective at this point, but either way, that was 1975. We're long past that, so I don't see that that would be an impediment at this point.
So long story short, we're both in agreement, we can transfer it. Just a simple transfer from Conservation Department, Moines County, to the city of Danville, from one government entity to another, so we don't have to go through notice and, you know, sale. We can go ahead and, I mean, we have to give notice, but we don't have to do, you know, public auction or anything like that. So this is an option we can do, and I think we can go forward with that. And I don't know, does Frame, do you want to let the supervisors know everything that you've done to the park over the last 6 months or so?
Well, since we took over, we removed the old fence, cleaned it up, removed a bunch of the old trees. There was a bunch of honeysuckle that had just taken over. Put in a new fence, and quick answer, we've probably got $10,000 invested since we've taken over with labor. We poured a slab of cement, we're gonna put an open shelter. You know, our idea is it's gonna remain a water trail type park, basically. But I just feel the city ought to own it if we're gonna keep tabs of this, maintain it, and put all this money and effort into it.
I think Ada would really like Danville to have it.
Yeah.
Or Howard, yeah.
Yeah. We've got lots of good compliments
Well,
since we've cleaned it up.
It looks nice. Got a nice sign there.
Yeah.
So, we'll have to put this on the agenda probably next week, so we can go ahead and approve that.
That's correct, yeah.
And, but we don't have to, my understanding, we don't have to put it up for public auction then.
Correct.
Okay.
So, kind of, I think, remember what we did last year with Supervisor Island? So it'll be, the transaction will be administratively just like that. Yeah.
Supervisor Island. Yes, like that. Yeah, that works for me.
So, a couple things. So let's run this through the conservation department first, since it was us that it was kind of not necessarily deeded to, because we own the whole things on behalf of the county. But our meeting's the second, and so we'll run that through the conservation board. I don't think anybody is gonna have any issues with that. I mean, our interest is just seeing that it's a better maintained park, but we don't necessarily have any interest in ownership of it. We'd have given it to you before, and we know we could. A couple other things would be, there is a restroom that's on there, that pit toilet, and it is listed as a fixed asset within our fixed asset list, so we'll need to, when we do the transfer that over along with the property, because that is county asset as well. And then, does the Danville city limits come all the way out there already?
It does not.
Okay, so if I remember right, talking to another community, can a city own an island?
Yeah, I looked at that already,
Okay.
because that's been asked several times, and they can. There's a
Okay.
statute right on point.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right.
Doesn't the city own Point Hills Golf Course? I think.
The city of Burlington?
Yeah, I think so, yeah, yeah. That's not contiguous to the city.
I just remember something came up at one of the conferences I was at, and that was an issue that one of the conservation boards somewhere in some other county ended up having to, there was some deed issue because the city had an island, and they said they couldn't do that.
The transfer of the fixed asset would be a Cheryl question, possibly Terry.
But we probably just had you fill out one of those forms that it's been,
It's removed from our fixed asset list, that's all you do. It's easy.
so, yeah, once it's transferred, we'll just give you one of those that it no longer belongs to the county, so.
We'll probably have to have Department of Health go out there, Greg will have to look.
Have a look.
Greg might have to look too, when we do as far as
Groundwater issue.
groundwater and let us know.
Yeah.
hopefully that's not a hang up, but.
So you'll probably just do a resolution like what we did with
I think-
Supervisor's Island, and is there a deed that will be done too, or?
Well,
Yes, and then, well,
Okay.
did we do a deed with Supervisor Ira?
I don't remember doing it.
I think we just did a resolution.
I know we did the resolution, I don't know if the deed came after that or not, so.
Or to transfer.
Well, what do you wanna do? It's your show.
I'll look at it, I mean, deeds are always nice, but, I mean, this is your guys' process, so whatever.
Yeah, so we'll go through with the resolution process, and if you want a deed, let us know.
And you'll contact Krista or Public Health and,
Yeah, I'm putting that
Yes.
down right now,
okay.
Tom. Because honestly, I'd like to have Greg go out there ahead of time so everybody knows if there is something we have to do, we need to talk about who's gonna do that, who's gonna pay for that, MOS. I don't know. Maybe it's all perfect, good, and,
Yes.
you know.
Is that part of time and transfer?
It is, it's part of time and transfer requirement, so, and we may be exempt from time and transfer requirement too,
I'll look.
with that, but, still, you know,
It's just a deal. There's no system.
yeah. And I think it's probably been locked for a really long time, right?
What's that?
That bathroom's probably been locked for a really long time.
No, it's open.
Oh,
In
okay.
fact, I think somebody came in and pumped it just recently, within the last 30 days. I don't know if Fisher come out and did it, I don't know. But
Shouldn't have been in every place.
Yeah, because it was a lot lower than it's
They'll
been.
find out if they get billed.
Yeah.
So then the question is, who gets billed?
Well, yeah, right.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But it could be one of those deals where we requested that back when we transferred it
Yeah.
over to you and it finally got done.
That very well may be. I think, I'll be honest with you.
That's been known to happen.
I think that was, I remember you mentioning that to me. You're probably right.
Yeah.
We'll
Well,
pick
you
the
guys
next one.
get that worked out, and then we'll have a resolution on
Okay, that'll work.
it. And let Terry and Sarah both know.
We'll put some resolution on
It looks like everybody's in agreement, this board's in agreement, your board's in agreement, so. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Danville, for the work.
it. Yeah.
Hey, Chris.
Frank, would you wake Jerry up? He looks like he's having.
He's been breathing heavy, I know that.
Wasn't snoring.
No, no snoring.
I just gave it.
Stole from that boogaloo he was eating the other
Golf
day.
pistachio.
Hi,
So I
Gary.
think that's all the information
Jerry.
he needs.
How are you?
Need
So-
something else.
Hi.
I'm calling up,
Before you
I've
leave-
been microwaving for
For
years.
years.
I don't know what the hell these are.
You just
Okay.
kind
Those
of.
apparently it's not fatal.
Triangle.
Maybe they just added, maybe.
Before you leave, I took your name.
Going, Gary.
I don't read cups at all.
But you know, if next
Everything
year.
you noticed it.
Yeah.
Maybe buy yourself a coffee cup for here.
Yeah, looks like that's what we recorded, I probably wouldn't know that, but that should have been good.
So I
Really should have.
before you guys in contact Leroy, have him
Good,
contact
good.
me and you. So that, you
We're
know,
hoping to do it again next year.
Happy there.
keep a friendly face in the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Maybe bring the
Some
clothes on.
interesting-
It is, like Leroy, when I got
conversation with the county attorney on our dog ordinance. We shall turn that over to you, Lisa.
Okay, so basically this is a refresher, because I don't understand my notes from the last time.
You don't?
I have too many arrows, and I'm not sure why arrows went to places that they went, so. In between, I got bogged down with murders and robberies, and then
You got a priority.
I had to shove some stuff off to the side, and this was it.
Do
Just
you
a
know what
murder.
a dog
No big
looks
deal.
like?
I have one, would you like to see her? She's beautiful.
Since we're talking about dogs.
Okay.
She's kind of dumb, but she's beautiful. What she lacks in brain, she gains in beauty. So I've got all the changes made with regard to the dog at large leash law portion of it, those taken out, so we go back to the original ordinance as it was written. Excuse me, but I know we wanted to make some additional changes now that it's been in practice for a while, to make some improvements. So I'm gonna try to go over my notes and then, so I know there was some question about the quarantine procedure. I know we had discussed, if there was no vaccination record, how we would do it, we would treat them differently than if there was a vaccination record. So my understanding is if there is a rabies vaccination, they can do a home quarantine. We all agree on that? Or if they didn't want to do that, they could do a vet or the animal shelter.
Yes.
You said for the animal shelter?
And it would be at their cost.
Yes. Now, there probably should be a little portion in there that if they are not if we go up there and they're not quarantining them, that the dog is going to be taken somewhere and quarantined, and they will pay those costs, without question.
Do you
So
put something,
See, I think there ought to be a fine if you go up there, but that's just me.
Well,
do you put something in there that said, you know, that somebody's gonna check to make sure the dog is quarantined?
yeah, we probably need to have that somewhere that, yeah.
This is what?
Yeah.
This is where I get arrows.
Yeah.
Okay. So add some language that they're subject to inspection.
Yes, that'd be perfect.
To guarantee that they're actually being quarantined properly, and then if they're not, the animal can be seized and placed with either a vet or the animal shelter.
Yes. At their cost.
And then if there is no vaccination, they have to be quarantined either the animal shelter or by a licensed vet.
Yes.
There should be a clause in there that they have to get vaccinated after.
Yes, I agree.
Any dog over 6 months of age, they would have to be examined by a veterinarian, and then they can't be released until after that examination. I suppose, I'm not sure that the ordinance specifically says that, but by law, they would have to be vaccinated.
Okay.
How long-
Following the quarantine.
How long does it take for a vaccination to take effect? In other words, so if you vaccinate the dog on Monday,
It's pretty quick.
so it is
With
pretty.
24 hours.
Oh, is it? Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So following the quarantine, then they would need to have the animal vaccinated, examined and vaccinated before it's released.
Should we put something in there, because the last situation, we ran into a whole lot of big white dogs. These guys are not gonna be able to look at these dogs and know this is Fred, this is Joe, and this is Jack.
I can tell the difference between them
Can
dogs. See
you?
them every day.
The big white ones from out at the,
Yeah,
where are you at? Where the sheep got attacked?
that's on the last bus route.
Oh, okay. But you can tell them apart?
Yeah, but I got in trouble over them dogs.
Well, anyway, should we, if there
That's
has,
an interesting story.
Were they chasing kids to the bus or?
Why?
He called him on the
if
bus.
there is an issue with a dog, they have to be quarantined, they have to go to a vet, they have to be vaccinated. Should there be a caveat in there, they also have to be microchipped. So that way we know exactly who the dog is. We can guarantee that this is, because that was one of the arguments, guys said, well, what my dog? There's a lot of big white dogs. Yeah. One of my dog.
I guess
I don't, we might
if
be,
it's,
I don't know that we can go there.
if it's chipped, how would we get the authority to check that chip?
If they've already been having an issue, you're gonna be doing their, can be inspected.
Yeah, but.
But yeah, when you get the dog later though, I just don't know, that may be an infringement, a little bit more infringement on property that I don't know that we can argue public safety for.
I mean, what's the?
If it's a, well, we're talking about attacks, right? So it's attacked another person.
I mean, after an attack, we can order its euthanization, so I suppose we can order it being
Well, that
chipped.
was the
But
other-
what I'm saying though is, like we used to do at the Humane Society in Boone, we would do chip clinics all the time, and they would get a number to be able to call and check on that dog, but that was the owners. I don't know if we as a county would be able to get the number
Oh,
to
yeah.
call and.
They do it all the time. Scan it, find out who it belongs to, and they can call and let them know that they've got their dog.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Our officers could carry a scanner to get that information. The scanners aren't even that expensive.
If you were gonna try to put something like that in there, and I'm kind of with Lisa, I don't know where you can or not, would that be after the dog has done something?
Well, yeah, it'd have to be
Yeah.
All
after
of
the
this
attack.
would be that the dog
That's what I'm
has
talking
done
about.
something.
Anyway, so in other words, that's part of the,
Your dog attacked someone,
your
so
dog
now you
attacked
have to
somebody,
have
if
it
you wanna get your
vaccinated
dog,
and chipped.
you do
Well, those
this,
are the only
this,
two
and
options,
this.
right?
Cause we're telling them they've gotta be, if they aren't running loose, they have to be in a certain kind of enclosure, don't they?
Yes.
And, you know, if you wanna keep the dog, he has to be in an enclosure and be chipped or something like that.
That's up to you guys.
I don't know, I just threw it out there.
I can imagine there'll be some blowback on that one.
On the chip? I mean, I think there would too, but at
I don't
the
have
same
my
time.
dog chipped because I don't want the ability of somebody to be able to scan my dog, and that's my
But
property.
if your dog bit somebody, you'll say you had no choice, either put that dog down or you're gonna.
I would move out of Des Moines County.
Over.
I've moved
You
for an
don't,
animal
you don't
before.
want, you don't have your dog chipped because you don't want anyone to know that information. What if your dog got lost?
My dog doesn't leave my house.
Her dog's been broke years ago. She's broken that dog.
She's not
See, quite right?
No, she's not.
That sounds like my daughter's cat, but anyways.
All right, so another one of the issues that we ran into was the wording in there says they have to come in front of the board twice before the board can make a decision on euthanasia, okay? They have to come in front of the board twice. We need to change that wording because the one situation, they had 2 attacks, brutal attacks, before we even got to the first board meeting.
Yeah, I was about to say, why is that even in there? They have to come twice.
So 2 incidents, and that was the
So
thought.
I don't know.
The thought was 2 incidents, but the way it's worded, they have to be in front of the animal control board twice.
Two
Well, let's
appearances.
finish the quarantine part,
Okay.
that way,
Okay.
because that's how I ended up with arrows.
Yeah.
going on the confused. Okay, so basically, the way it's written now is fine. We're just gonna change some of the issues regarding home quarantine, which will only be allowable if there is proof of vaccination.
Other
And then
things
they'll
we
be
added.
subject to an inspection, to confirm that the proper quarantine measures are taken. If not, then the animal may be seized and placed with the veterinarian or the Humane Society at their cost. There's no vax, they don't get a choice, it either goes to a licensed vet or the animal shelter at their cost. And then following that quarantine period, they will have to have the dog examined and vaccinated before it would be released to them. Any other changes that we would want to make?
The notes I had, if a vaccinated animal bites a person or other animal, it still requires a 10-day quarantine, but may be quarantined by the owner if the following requirements of confinement are met. The animal is kept in a proper enclosure preventing contact with any animals or persons. A sign is posted on the enclosure warning of possible rabies infection. The owner of the animal shall sign an agreement to adhere to the rules of confinement to notify the sheriff's office of the condition of the animal following the term of confinement and to immediately notify the sheriff's office if the animal sickens, dies, or escapes. And that's what we added to our animal bite report, just based on those notes. And I can send that to you too.
Please do.
Yep, will do.
So the next issue would be the board.
This particular case where you guys went out to, there's 5 big dogs out there now, and they got 2 little ones, 7 dogs to test.
So is the one back?
The one
No, one got shot, the other one that was involved in it was a big white dog, and they sent it to Henry County to live with his sister.
Well,
So we couldn't watch it, cause he's supposed to be
there's 3 white dogs out there now. There's the mama and then them 2.
2 pups,
Yeah, they're not pups anymore.
big,
They're pretty big. And then there's 2 of the
husky.
huskies out there.
So that was the result of that last incident, then as they moved the dog out of county.
He was supposed to keep it in confinement and all that. Well, then, once he went and got it, he took it to Henry County, to his sister's house, which is unfortunately 2 miles down the road.
That's because the
I mean,
bus
isn't she
driver-
right down the road from where you live?
What's that now?
Isn't she right down the road from where they live?
New London, I think.
Yeah, but okay. So. So that was a little bit of an annoyance with that situation, because then I feel like we threw the problem on somebody else instead of,
Well, you didn't, he did.
yeah, I know, but
Same
unfortunately,
people are
we kinda
risk.
got, yeah. Yeah, because the dog will travel that distance. I mean, if it wants to get back to that,
Well, I think-
20 miles is nothing for a dog to decide to take a run and,
Well, I think that dog's still over in Henry County, because there was 4 white ones out there. There's only 3 white ones now.
So I think what Angie's referring to on page 12 of the ordinance is the board shall further have authority to humanely euthanize the dog at the owner's expense if the board determines there has been a previous finding that the dog was potentially dangerous.
yeah.
The board shall maintain a list of dogs the board has determined to be potentially dangerous, which shall be available to the public.
Do we have a list?
What do you mean?
Potentially dangerous dogs, do we got a list in Des Moines County? We got a-
We haven't had that issue, except we have the one dog. There's one dog that's alive still.
Does he go on the list if he's out of county then?
We'll see, once he goes out of county, he's out.
Well, I mean, but let's say he comes back, you know, he travels down there and the same dog, would say he bites somebody or does something in Des Moines County. Is that his third strike or second strike?
I did tell them, don't know if I technically could, but I did tell them if there was any more issues with any of the dogs on that property, we would come collect them, we would take them to the shelter, and we'd have another board meeting on whether or not we're putting them all down. So, hopefully there won't be any more issues, like I said, I'm not sure.
I don't know what family talking about.
Back to what Tom said though, so we don't have anything in place that if somebody moves a dog, but yet the dog comes back in? Because I know with,
That's why I want the
question
microchip, how do you prove it?
What?
It's a big white dog.
So what we would do is, in our case file, we have photos of that dog. We don't have the microchip readings, but we have the photos of the dogs that were involved in that. At the time, they were covered in blood, and then we did follow-up photos as well when the dogs were seized.
They did an excellent job, by the way.
So we would have that in the investigative case file that we could reference, but we would refer to that, and we'd be relying on photos of, and there's some different characteristics of the dogs.
And that would be something they could fight easy.
Did-
Prove that's the same dog. How do you know that's the same dog?
And I'm sure that collars could be changed, but doesn't a rabies vaccination, doesn't that have a number on it?
Yes.
Each, a unique number for each dog?
Yes.
Well, these dogs don't have collars.
But again, it just hooks onto the collar. you
Yeah,
just-
oh, yeah, no, I understand.
And you can change it all. Yeah, I mean, that's,
Would
a
it-
microchip is the only way to find, unless you do DNA testing. Now, that's $129 a dog, with AKC. But the microchip is the only way, or a tattoo. But then people have been known to cut ears off or whatever to cover up tattoos they want to see.
What, an anchor on the
And I don't
chest?
like tattooing again.
Yeah, I mean.
Mom.
That used to be the way to identify dogs, was they would do a small tattoo in the ear, and then people would just cut them off if they stole them. So microchips is something they cannot, you can't find them. I mean, you put them in the neck here, but they move. So, I've seen dogs that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've seen dogs that I won't do mine until they're at least 6 months to a year old, because then their muscles are more firm. But I've seen people put it in real early in pups, and the microchips down in their elbow when they actually scan them years later, so.
Yeah, I hate to tell people to do it their own stuff, but on a deal like this, I'm just.
But again, the
trying to find
threshold is that the dog has already done something.
Right,
And so this
right.
isn't his dog.
Yeah, it's already attacked
That's
someone or something to
So
the
it's
point.
it's not like you're asking everybody.
Right.
to
Right,
watch him.
and you're not talking about a bite. I mean, I go into someone's house and I get a simple nip on my ankle, you're not gonna hear anything about it. These are dogs that have actually caused,
Vicious attack. I know.
and that one, this last one, what those dogs did to those sheep was very scary,
Were they, who owned the sheep? Somebody else?
yeah,
Neighbor down
Super
the road
nice
about a half
guy.
mile.
yeah. But they literally,
Them all.
oh,
Tore it up.
shredded them. Their intestines were hanging out, they.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and it wasn't one or two, it was,
I think
all of them were attacked.
All of them was,
Yeah, there were some babies that killed, so here's, little bitty babies, they're no threat to the dogs, just, yeah, it
Was
was.
it trying to eat them, or they just?
It-
it was
it-
another-
No, they were viciously killing them, that's where it gets
They
to where
do
it's
just have
scary.
fun, I suppose, or?
Yeah, this wasn't, to them, it was a game, it was a party. They weren't there to eat them, it was just a vicious attack. And that's when you start worrying about dogs' behaviors, because then that can happen to anyone.
Right.
I've had dogs that did that, they weren't a threat to humans. I'm just gonna say that. I have short hairs, and short hairs can be extremely aggressive
With
other animals, I had a dog ride a deer across the lake, determined to kill it while I was hunting.
Really?
Never touch a human. So, there are other sides to this.
But have you seen them actually kill something and rip it apart? Not for
Absolutely.
food, not for,
Yeah,
I've seen
I had
dogs,
dead,
and it's
I
a-
had
it's a
dead
prey
animals
drive,
on my
it's,
porch every morning when I let them run. They'd go out and kill and bring it back and show it
what
off.
kind of dog are you got?
Possums, raccoons, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I never attacked somebody's livestock, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying,
Black labs.
well, yeah, a rabbit or something like that, yeah, I get that.
And these dogs were not aggressive towards
And she's
the
fairly
deputies.
submissive,
They
so,
were,
you know,
obviously, they were very cautious about approaching.
Yeah, one of them said, jumped up on the car, I was like, oh.
They did, I mean, they literally left bloody footprints, but they weren't aggressive towards the deputies. They were decent, but that doesn't mean that they're not gonna be dangerous to all the neighbors.
yeah, you have a responsibility as a dog owner, and I don't have a problem with that, but there is, I mean, like I said, I hunted dogs, and if you go back and chase their lineage, they were used differently once upon a time, and apparently that's still in there somewhere. Now, not all of mine do that, but one of them cleaned out all the barn cats where I lived at the time.
Yeah, they're,
We had
The only time she really has a
mastiff
big
that,
issue is during
Kevin
Christmas season
took care of
and.
they're in this,
cats in the house,
really?
but I had 3 of them, I had spayed
law,
neutered,
it's
and I
so many dogs, if you have so many dogs, in there,
Here,
now law.
that
But like on a day where we
Money
know
on
we're
it,
gonna have
and
never
Like have to have a
touched
breeder
I've
select.
never won the cat thing, every show I've ever had, killed every cat I
The
got.
concern I have is if those
The
dogs
thing
up
is,
there
when
are
he
running
killed
around
them,
without
he
collars in
timber.
there.
I
That's,
shot them off,
that's
so I
against the
never
law.
had to bury
So,
them.
every dog that's not in
Yeah.
a locked kennel has to have a collar with
Something to
a
eat.
rabies tag
I'm
next to
all,
it
I'm all.
if they're over
in
6 months
something.
old.
I don't care if it's
So
little,
at
and
the time of this
it's something to
incident,
eat. My mom's giving
those
it to
were
me at my
some of the
school.
things we worked with them on. They got every dog vaccinated, every dog had their collar on appropriately, and they were securing the dogs. Now, it sounds like that's gone by the wayside a little bit. But if there's dogs without their collars on, by code, we are to impound that dog. Impound it or put it down, and I don't ask our deputies to put down the dog. I ask them to impound it, take it to the animal shelter, and then the people have to come and get it and pay for that rabies vaccination if they don't already have it. But they need to have the collars and the rabies tags fixed.
Well, them white dogs, they, their hair is matted and everything else. I mean, they get down that creek.
Again, responsibility,
Huh?
again, responsibility.
They look like those, what do they call them, wolf dogs down there, they similar to those,
Hybrids?
remember down on the.
These are
These are
more
like
like Great Pyrenees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Very
supposed to be like
long.
livestock protectors, actually.
Yeah,
In
which
this
is
case,
kind of
they-
surprising, but they can be that way. I mean, they can.
Did they
Check on
pay
that.
for the damages?
No,
They did not.
no. Both of them said they were going to, and then they were gonna split it, and then they went and talked to him, and so, yeah, I've been in touch
So
with
one of
him.
the things I'll do, Kevin, is I will just incorporate, chapter 351 in your duties. And just incorporate those into it, so that way you're not hampered in any way.
No, the one guy called him after the first attack and said it wasn't only my dog, it was her dog too. I'll pay you $200 towards it, which wasn't even close to half. And he says, but you're gonna have to come to the courthouse and sign a letter of agreement that I don't owe you anything else.
Once your dog does it, I don't know that you're in a strong negotiating position.
Well, then,
What you
you
owe.
know, what's the person's alternative? Now I gotta take him to court to get it,
Civil,
yeah, I know, but then
unfortunately,
that's,
that's not what you should be.
I mean, it's a shame we
Well,
can't say, well, you
You
gotta
should just shoot the
automatically.
dog as soon as it steps back on, cause it's coming back.
He did kill the one. So,
But that's exactly what I would do.
the other one got away, but he killed the one.
So they would come back to the same place that. if they
Mine
never
would.
shoot, okay.
I mean, that's.
Oh, yeah,
And
they,
they
if,
did,
if they're, if that's where the excitement is, yeah, they'll absolutely come back.
Yeah.
I would be.
I've had
yeah,
neighbors'
I'd be
dogs
sitting
that
out.
ran,
Yeah,
and
before you
they'd call me
send
first,
anybody
cause
out
they
there,
would come over to my place.
I'd have me a nice little
Sure.
campfire and a chair sitting out there.
I don't want anything to do with it.
And I love animals.
They probably don't have
Pretty
collars.
cool, but-
I mean, it's a big issue. We don't impound every dog that we see, but we're,
You have the authority.
yeah, we're becoming more proactive about making sure that stopping and saying, hey, your dog can't be out of here without a rabies collar on, seeing that rabies vaccination, make sure they're tag fixed. It's an issue that we need to address. There's a lot of dogs running out there without collars.
That being said, like she says, she doesn't wanna use microchips. My dogs don't run. I would never allow that, but, if my dogs were running, they were going out in the woods hunting and running, and I wouldn't want a collar on. It's a good way to get a dog killed.
My father-in-law had a dog, Gordon Setter anyway, they just running on the farm, and he loved to run. He didn't show up for a few days, and my son found him, and just got his collar hung up on a fence, and he was about half dead.
Yeah. Dogs have been playing with each other and got the collar twisted and killed one of the dogs.
Yeah, that's the only thing I do with my rabies collars, they hang on my hunting collars, and that's the only time my dog has it on. Otherwise, they don't wear collars.
Yeah.
Cause I mean, my dogs don't run, but for the first 2 years of a puppy, it takes some breaking to get them, this is where you belong, and you gotta go to the neighbors, and you gotta pick, I mean, it happens, I mean, but you don't want your dog to run. But they get bored, and next thing you know, they're gone, and you hope they're on your property, but they're not.
Or they see something.
Or they chase something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
They forget what they're doing and see a
they're,
deer or a rabbit or.
who knows what they're thinking, but it does happen.
Ford Fiddler bought a little Yorkie. It opened up the door and it got out there in Danville. It was gone, what, 2 weeks? They couldn't find it, and somebody seen it over outside of town, across the railroad tracks, all over in that bean field.
Mhm.
They set a live trap out, put some food in it and caught it.
They
Survived
got.
for 2 weeks out in the wild.
How fun.
Remember though, they're a Yorkshire Terrier.
Good point.
They like to go after vermin.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Terriers are
They're
hunters.
barking I'm not a fan either, but.
They're balls and muscle, I know that.
We call them ankle.
But I'll tell you what, you stick it near a gopher hole or
You wouldn't like.
you'll lose them quick.
I had a 3-pounder, it's a little bitty thing like that, and they'd come and sit on my lap.
Mine does.
Yeah, but if you come up and sit down beside me, she'll bite you.
My dog lays in my lap. She's a Labrador, you know.
Here he has a horse that he calls a dog, so.
That's true.
And he has a collar on because he's black and I got a fluorescent collar on, just so I can see him at night, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so the way the ordinance is written now, the board has the authority to order euthanization if there's been a potential finding that the dog was potentially dangerous. So you're saying you wanna make that, just, they can do it the first time?
I would like it to say 2 incidents, not in front of the board twice.
Not 2 appearances.
Not 2 appearances.
I thought you were gonna change the 2 incidents.
So, no, 2 incidents, I can understand if, like he said, if
Give
a
'em a
dog
chance.
goes and kills something once. But if it does it twice, then that is a problem, it's an ongoing issue.
I don't suppose one of that the county has any leverage in an ordinance that says a second incident will be allowed if restitution is fully for a
I would
loss.
say if you're not gonna control this situation, the dogs attacked and killed him, and everyone was notified, the sheriff was out there, they talked to him, they let the dogs go and kill him again a week later.
Yeah.
So that is on the, unfortunately, I mean, personally, I'd rather never kill a dog, but that's on the owners. If they
Yeah,
don't have enough responsibility at that point to get their dogs under control and make sure that situation doesn't happen again.
Well, I agree, my question is the people, the owners of the dogs clearly weren't willing to give restitution for the damage their dog did.
Right.
At the time, he went to him and actually accepted responsibility, said he was going to, but you know how
Then
that
didn't
goes. Down the
follow
road,
through.
it
I didn't know if there's any leverage in the ordinance that
Something
could
to
somehow
write in.
motivate
Something to write
an
in
owner
there.
that basically says you're gonna get a second strike if you provide restitution for the first strike. I'm not saying that it's possible, I'm just saying, is there any way to motivate?
Well,
to-
my question is, where's the, what sets the template for what is okay to have another situation to occur, that the dog should be put down? Because like the deal where the dog, or dogs attacked the guy's little kid, the little girl that they set up in Iowa City and stuff like that, would you give that dog another chance? You gotta be kidding me.
No.
I think
So I'm saying, where
That
are
wasn't
we,
the
where are we
first
saying
go around
that?
for that dog.
Where are we saying if it's
No.
another animal, if it's a wild animal, I mean, where do we say that this dog's lost it, man?
If it's a person, it can be on the first time.
Yeah.
I believe that it's vicious versus potentially dangerous.
Well, but then there's still 2 things in there. It still talks about, because we were gonna
But
do
I-
vicious, but even under vicious, they had to appear twice.
Well, I
So, that's a good point.
And
Somebody tore up my granddaughter, I want that dog
I
down.
think the state
I'm
code,
not kidding you.
state code would override ours.
Does the state
like
code
on
say
first time.
automatically that it can be
I
euthanized?
don't think so.
See, I think it's allowed a second.
I know the city of Burlington's animal control officer came and talked to both Chris and me to kind of go through things a couple months back, because they had a similar situation with similar language in their ordinance where they had an animal, and there's already been reports. And then a couple weeks later, before the board met, there was another incident. And so I think what you're saying is, you want two separate incidences as opposed to a prior finding.
Yeah, because by the time they get in
Yeah.
front of the board,
Yeah.
this dog could have went out and done it again.
Okay,
So it needs to be-
35127, it shall be lawful for any person to kill a dog wearing a collar with a rabies vaccination tag attached when the dog is caught in the act of chasing, maiming, or killing any domestic animal or fowl, or when such dog is attacking or attempting to bite a person.
What was that number?
Iowa Code Section 351.27.
But that's for the
That's
dog
in
to kill
the act.
immediately, not 30
Or
days.
so maybe that's how it needs to be read for the board.
That refers to
That-
what the board can do and.
It can be two incidents, but the board still has the right, depending on the viciousness of the attack, to say one incident's enough.
So 35139, if a local board of health receives information that an animal has bitten a person or that a dog or animal is suspected of having rabies, the board shall order the owner to confine such animal in the manner it directs. If the owner fails to confine such animal in the manner directed, the animal shall be apprehended and impounded by such board, and after 10 days, the board may humanely destroy the animal. If such animal is returned to its owner, the owner shall pay the cost of impoundment. This section shall not apply if a police service dog or a horse used by a law enforcement agency and acting in the performance of its duties has bitten a person, because that's what we asked them to do.
See, I want it more solid, where they're not, so somebody can't come back and say, well, Shane just wanted my dog dead. You know what I'm saying? I want it that, no, you fit the
See,
criteria, just like
and that's
everybody
the
else, your
thing,
dog's
that's,
dead.
we went through this, me and the board sat down, we had Christine from the Animal Control Board, or Animal Control from Burlington, sit down with us, and we went over it word for word, and felt, even though there was two vicious attacks, we could not euthanize the dog without pushback because of the word, because they hadn't been in front of the board twice. And that was.
Yeah, and I want somebody thinking that they
Because
can
we'd
come.
all agree that we would.
So Trent, comparing this to criminal law, what Angie's saying is you pick up a PCS in July and you pick up a PCS in October, we get you for both PCSs. Whereas we can't enhance it now unless you have arrest conviction, arrest conviction. And so you're wanting to say, we don't want arrest conviction, we want arrest, kill.
Just for PC, probable cause.
Possession, controlled
Possession, controlled
substance.
Oh, okay.
Like now, we
Figure out what
can't
she was
enhance
talking
something
about.
to a second or third offense unless you've actually been arrested and convicted for it, and then you get arrested again. So you could be arrested 18 times for PCS, and if you don't have that first conviction, it's all PCS first.
That's
But
all
Angie's
bullshit.
saying the way, so with the way this is currently written, it's arrest, conviction, that appearance before the board. They do it again, they appear before the board that second time, then they can be euthanized. What Angie's saying is, no, I want arrest, conviction.
Yeah, yeah, we
Because
can
a
do
dog
it-
that's vicious can cause a lot of damage in the amount of time it takes to get the board together.
We can do it one of two ways. We can do it exactly like you're saying, and that'll work, as long as it fits within the state code.
The way it's currently written is there has to be a prior appearance before the board
Right.
where the dog has been determined to be potentially dangerous.
The other way we can do it is if we extend the quarantine period until a finding of the board.
The board has the authority to impound the dog.
Yeah, so if we say that,
So on that first one.
Well,
you just impound the dog.
and that should be the way it happens, the first time the dogs are taken away, immediately put in
So
quarantine.
we find out what the heck is going on.
And then we can, but that's still 10 days, and are we gonna keep it quarantined till the board can meet?
but that's what I'm saying, is we have this dual option quarantine, one being at the, at a vet or, a sanctioned place or in the home. But I think what's happening is we're getting them the second quarantine option, home quarantine option, then second event. So one way we can do it is say if an attack happens during the quarantine period.
Well, this is different than vaccination, because these dogs can be completely vaccinated. This is
Right.
different. This is just if they've attacked someone, and the board may authorize impoundment of the dog prior to a hearing. So the board actually has the authority before it ever has the hearing, because there is deadlines on it, it has to be within 5 to 10 days. So immediately upon receiving the complaint, they can order the dog be impounded, and then Kevin and his guys can go get it.
Well, we do have to work, I mean, this is all new, so I wasn't contacted by the sheriff's department until the second attack. But it's all new for them too. So I guess that could be the way it can be handled. Is immediately if there's a attack like this, then the dogs are taken away, quarantined until.
Well, the other thing is to write, because potentially dangerous dog and vicious
It's two
animal
different
are
things.
written two different ways.
And the
So-
city only has one or the other.
Do you
The
think
city
it's
of Burlington
defined
has,
good enough, the difference?
this dog's found not guilty,
So
or this dog's
potentially
found.
dangerous dog is any dog which, when unprovoked on 2 separate occasions within a 36-month period, engages in any behavior that requires a defensive action by any person to prevent attack or injury when the person and the animal are off the property of the owner or the keeper of the dog. That's one definition. Any dog which, when unprovoked, inflicts injury upon a person. Or C, any dog which, when unprovoked on 2 separate occasions, has killed, seriously bitten, inflicted injury, or otherwise caused injury, attacking a domestic animal off the property of the owner or keeper of the dog. Vicious dog is defined as any dog which, when unprovoked and in an aggressive manner, bites a human being or inflicts severe injury upon or kills a human being. Or any dog previously determined to be potentially dangerous by the Animal Control Board, which after its owner or keeper has been notified of the termination, persists in the behaviors defined in section B6, or is maintained in violation of section C and or G, basically not.
So that was the same thing, vicious, you can't go to vicious unless the board's had a hearing.
So, yeah, it says after the board is
dangerous.
found.
No.
Or there's been severe injury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is a
Versus just
domestic
an
dog off the
injury.
property, off the not on the person's property.
Right.
As soon as it bites a person, then it's vicious.
No,
It can't be
Because the first,
It can be
just
dangerous.
if it only inflicts injury, so maybe it nips at you and just breaks some skin, it's only going to be potentially dangerous.
Oh,
If it inflicts serious injury, which I don't, and severe injury is any physical injury to a human being that results in muscle or tendon tears, joint injuries, disfiguring lacerations, or requires multiple sutures.
See, to me, it's a dog.
Completely different definition.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about.
Some
you're
dogs
talking
flip out
about
and and they'll reach out and get you, and
Yeah.
some dogs, they'll reach out and get you, they just wanna keep.
shaking and, yeah.
And all, maybe we're trying to do too many things all at once.
Maybe.
Because, you know, say for instance, you have, in the country, somebody has a hunting dog, well-trained, $20,000 dog. That can happen. And they go out and they go to the neighbors and find chickens, and they're a bird dog. So now
They're
they're.
gonna tear the chickens apart.
Well, or cats, but what I'm saying is they tear the chickens apart, or they go and get the chickens, because that's what they've been trained to do. And it happens twice within the course of.
Good hunting dog won't tear apart a chicken because they're trained to use a soft
Right.
mouth and just carry that bird back to their.
That's supposed to be the way it is.
Ooh, burn.
But you see what I'm saying, though, is, and then they go back a week later, and the owner still doesn't even have notice, so.
But you gotta remember, the board that we set up, okay, we have a vet, we have me, we have another dog specialist on there. So the people that are on there, no dogs, understand canine behavior enough that they can make a logical decision on, was this normal behavior for a bird dog? Was this normal behavior, or was this something that is so extreme that we need to take action? I think we're trying so hard to lock up every detail on this that the board is not necessary.
Yeah.
Just follow the rules on that. They're not making any decisions. There is not anything that they can do. So that's why the city, I mean, when I was talking to the city animal control board, they said, no, it's black and white. Either they are not gonna go in front of the control board because it was not a big enough situation, or it is, and they're gonna go in front of the animal control board, and the animal control board's gonna look at the situation and make a judgment call based on knowledge of animals and their behavior. So, I think we're really getting it down to such nitty gritty that we're
I
making
agree,
the
you
board
don't want three
obsolete.
lawyers sitting there arguing about the meaning of implications of this verb or
Yeah, trust in the board.
And not that you know, because you guys put so much work into this, God bless you, because I know you got bigger things to worry about, but I think that, yeah, we're just being,
that's why you've got animal people on that.
yeah,
board.
yeah.
And
That's
you
why
can't
we're-
write a whole ordinance based on the behavior of one or two dogs.
No,
I agree with
no.
that.
And you don't know the situation. Now, you know, the kid that got attacked, that's horrible. That, one of my dogs ever did something like that, they'd never make it to the house. I'd shoot them before they ever got there. But if a kid's attacking a dog and the dog
I've seen some
bites-
kids do some
you
pretty
know,
nasty things to it.
Right, right, no, I get
So
you.
you've gotta look at the entire situation, and if that thing would have to be a book in order to cover all the scenarios I've seen in my lifetime. You could never cover it all. And then we also tie their hands up when they go out and address the situations and.
Well, for the most part, Kevin's guys, their hands are limited by, because a lot of that stuff has to be right in front of them. It's not taking a complaint later, so they can't take a complaint and then go out,
Right.
okay, we're gonna go kill this dog.
But if they go and get them and they're covered in blood,
Yeah,
they can.
that's different.
Yeah, so.
I mean, so their authority to do certain things are because it's right in front of them, the danger is now, it has to be dealt with.
Yeah,
This is for more of those things that you guys don't learn about until after the fact.
Right.
And I agree that if you're gonna have the animal control board, the animal control board should have some discretion. Because the city is different than the county.
yeah.
It just is.
Oh, it is. I mean, they got free
City
right
has
to
leash
run
laws,
and,
the city
you
has
know.
all these other things, so yeah, for them it can be more black and white.
Right.
Because for the most part, if your dog's off your property without a leash, there's a problem to
Yeah.
start with.
Yeah.
Where we don't have that.
How often do we have, what, once or twice a year?
They're
Oh.
required to meet twice a year.
Yeah, we've only had one situation since this was
Since that other one?
adopted, where we had the wolf dogs.
Okay.
Now, there was a picture Chris showed us that looks like a wolf running out in the country, so.
But they still shall meet twice a year regardless of if the reason to bring them in front of the board, so.
So when we change this, we'll do another meeting and say, all right, this is what we're looking at.
Or do a meeting and then decide how the animal control board wants to change the ordinance.
Those were the things they asked me to bring to it, was, the biggest thing was that their hands were tied in a situation they really felt that the dog probably should have been euthanized, especially with, you also see the people's behavior, and even though he admitted he was wrong, his dog was wrong, when he talked to the officers, he came in here and said, wasn't my dog.
What
There was
if,
another dog, but all that my dog wasn't even there, he's covered in blood, but, you know, so when someone's not even gonna accept the responsibility,
what if we clean up the language with regard to whether they've determined that dog is potentially dangerous or if they've determined it's vicious? Cause it's a little unclear. 'Cause the one paragraph says, the board shall have the authority to declare a dog potentially dangerous, and if that's the case, that's where you have to have that second hearing.
right,
The board shall have the authority to order a dog determined to be vicious to be humanely euthanized, and I think when you read those two together, I don't know necessarily that it's saying that if they determine the dog is vicious, that there has to be that second prong, that second act.
but it just reads
I
that
think
way.
this language just needs to be cleaned up a little bit so that, because when you're reading them together, I think it's hard to tell, okay, do I have to have that, does this have to be number 2? Or can we just order it on number 1? So maybe if I just clean that language up so that it's clear, if the dog's determined to be vicious
It's
and the
done.
board deems it appropriate,
One
the
and
board
done.
can euthanize it on first go.
Okay.
Would that work?
Yeah, that works.
What our standard is and what our understanding is through all the definitions is if it bites somebody, a person, unprovoked, first incident, then that can be vicious. If it
Not
kills
under
it,
the county,
what's it?
not under the county.
Yeah. It's
The
gotta be.
ordinance, the
a
ordinance
bite
is.
Because it's-
dangerous.
if it
Vicious
does-
is tear, rip and tear.
Vicious,
But
vicious
you could get that on one
is
time, on the first pop.
Yeah.
If it took, right.
If we
bites a
consider it
human being
vicious.
and inflicts serious or severe injury or kills a human, or has been previously determined to be potentially dangerous, which is different than vicious.
Under number 11, vicious dog means any of the following: any dog which, when unprovoked and in an aggressive manner, bites a human being or inflicts severe injury upon or kills a human being.
Well,
And then
then
if
you
you
should
follow
not
this-
have potentially dangerous animal because then they mean the same thing.
Well, the potentially-
Kinda, I mean, that's
the
part of the
potentially
problem.
dangerous animal covers like the attack on other livestock, so that's when.
But it also says when unprovoked inflicts injury upon a person.
And
Yeah, so both,
they
and both
they're
of them are
meaning
the
the same
same.
thing.
The
Right.
vicious is on livestock too. The difference is, I think when we put that in, this is what they were thinking. So, someone's walking out of your house and your dog nips at their ankle or bites them in the butt, which dogs like to do that when you leave. A lot of dogs will do that. That's not severe injury. That's, I mean, the person needs to figure out what they're gonna do with their dog, but that's not something severe. Where they're causing damage, where you're gonna have stitches or, you know, you have to go to the hospital, it's serious, then that is when.
So do we wanna change the definition of vicious dog to bites a human being inflicting severe injury upon them or killing them? Because the way it's written now, the 6B and 11A say the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, we need to differentiate that for sure.
Because I agree with Angie, there is a difference between, you know, the
Yeah.
kid reaches in the candy dish and teases the dog and the dog nips
Right.
at him.
Or even livestock. You get a border collie that goes out in a bunch of sheep, it's gonna be nipping at their ankles, biting at them. Cows, same thing, because that's how they move them.
I just
That's
believe
how they're
that
trained
we
to
have
hurt them.
two levels of discretion here, one at the officer level, and then at the point that they refer it to the board, then the board level to make that final determination of what the outcome of the dog's gonna be. There's a reason that you don't get those reports from our deputies of a
Nips.
vicious animal, because we do handle a lot of nips, of those level of attacks, but we're not referring every one of those. That's because officer discretion. They know that they should refer them if there's that level of concern, but they don't on those. If they do, then we're still gonna have that level of discretion. I personally like the idea of the ability, if a dog bites a person unprovoked, that there's that ability to, one, I would like to see added to the ordinance that we could impound a dog at the time.
Immediately.
Going back afterwards is difficult. Dogs disappear and it's, but if we could impound that dog at the time, vaccinated or not, we take that dog into our custody if we're gonna refer it for the potentially dangerous or vicious dog. But then we have the two levels of discretion, where the law enforcement officer can make the determination, but then at the board level, then they can make the final determination.
Well, I don't think we wanna take that out of your hands as far as
No, I think pull the board together every time you have a nip or something, because you
Right.
probably, how many do you have? So, and like I said, they did a great job. The only thing is I would like for them to be able to immediately confiscate the dog. Because if we got an issue that they feels a threat, it should be quarantined until we know what's going on,
But-
even for the rabies shot or not.
you can immediately put a dog down, right? You don't have that?
If it's chasing or maiming,
Yeah.
you know, there's actually case law out there of whether you can or can't, and I'm trying to remember how that all landed, but I think it had to be in the act of.
Well, 27, it shall be lawful for any person to kill a dog wearing a collar with a rabies vaccination tag attached when the dog is caught in the act of chasing, maiming, or killing.
But you can kill it if it doesn't have a tag on it.
If it doesn't have a tag, it actually says you shall impound or immediately destroy, or not immediately, destroy the dog. We don't, we don't shoot them on
Unless you
site.
have otherwise provided for the seizure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I hate that. Cause I don't wear collars, one of my dogs would get out and be running. Of course, if they open the car door, they'd jump in and go for a cruise with them. But- And I think in here, that's the only reason they would shoot it is they were vicious.
So tightening up the verbiage and the difference between, what is that?
Potentially dangerous dog versus vicious dog.
Yeah.
And the thing we gotta remember is, unfortunately, none of this is brought up because of the dogs. This all has to do with owners, people.
Always.
Their responsibility
And
and whether or
truly,
not.
it's a simple misdemeanor if they don't comply. So, $105 fine.
Yeah, and that stinks.
Is that- I
If
mean,
you're not gonna be responsible with your dogs, and I think all dog owners and dog lovers would agree, it needs to hurt, because then that makes everyone else look bad, and it makes rules that can,
Well, so one of the things for penalties, because violations of this ordinance shall constitute a simple misdemeanor as provided in Iowa law unless otherwise specified. Simple misdemeanor, the minimum fine is $105. Maximum is, what is it now, Trent? I don't know, I've never had a judge give a maximum fine. It's bigger than that, but I don't remember what it is. I wanna say it's like 800 and something. I mean, maybe rather treat it as a simple misdemeanor, but obviously we're not going to incarcerate on simple misdemeanors because we don't want them to get a public defender and then have to pay for it. It's a monetary type penalty, so rather than just treating it as a simple misdemeanor, treat it as a violation of a county ordinance
and fine
and
them.
make the fine hurt.
But they lose the dog. If they do something like that, they're losing their dog, or it's gonna cost them so much, because you're gonna have to.
But you're assuming they care.
Well,
Regardless, it's keeping the public safe and,
Even if they don't care, if they're being fined, it's gonna hurt them.
Yeah.
No matter what, because most likely, a lot of people don't wanna have to pay.
That's one thing I've always
That's
been
fine.
against the breed-specific legislation, because if someone's stupid enough to train their dog to be mean enough to attack people, they don't care if you kill that dog, they'll just go get another dog. You know?
Trade another one, yeah.
So, until we address the people and their issues, it's not the dog's issues, it's the people's issues that we've got to correct. And that's unfortunately why we have to have these rules.
Doesn't homeowners insurance cover a dog bite if you've got a dog?
First time.
First time covers that anyway.
Generally, they'll send you a nice letter that says, okay, we've paid this, and we
You're
will not
canceled.
pay it again.
And a lot of insurance companies, because of that,
What I'm just
will
saying
not
is that-
insure anybody with dogs.
I'm just saying they either won't insure them or they're homeowners.
Iowa law does make them strictly liable. They're liable for their dog's actions.
These particular dogs, you can get out, these dogs will not bother you out there. You know, you never know that they would do this. So, I don't know how they afford to feed them dogs, because they're not malnutrition or anything.
They don't live really well though.
No, they don't. They don't,
They're not cared for, they're
they're
not.
not cared for. I don't think they've ever had a bath.
I think that's why they didn't care. I mean, one of his arguments was, the only reason the officer saw blood on that dog is there was a dead deer in a field that had been there about 2 weeks and they'd been eating on that. It's like, okay, if the dead deer had been laying there for 2 weeks, the dog would not have been covered with blood when he came home. Look at Lisa's mouth curl up.
I'll say a human can bleed out in like, what, hours?
Yeah, so that was his, when he come to deny that his dog was even there, that was why it was covered in blood. And of course, I actually did laugh and say, yeah, we're not buying that, we're
Because if it's
sorry.
been out there rotting for 2 weeks, you don't wanna get near them.
Oh my God.
I would hate to think my neighbors gave that cared less about what damage they did to me or my possessions or their other neighbors. They let them run through your livestock like that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I shouldn't say this, but landfill is cleaner than what their yard is.
Oh, it was nasty. I went out.
Did you?
I went out and talked to the farmer. I felt so bad because I went out to look at his sheep and check everything out. And one of the little bitty black lambs that was involved in the situation and its sibling had been killed or whatever, was stuck in between a pallet and a wall and was back there just shaking. You couldn't go near it. It was just, he says, yeah, it's probably not gonna survive. And I said, was it bit? He says, no. And he says, but it hasn't came out of there since it happened. He said, I can't get it out. So they're just, yeah. I mean, besides the ones that it killed, it screwed up his whole flock. They all had issues. But I did tell him, I gave him my personal cell phone, said call me if you ever have another.
The other thing we had talked about was, and I think this was Tim Scott's issue in the last time, is how does the person bitten know the status of the dog following the quarantine? And I think we had all agreed, I wanna make sure this is right, that within 24 hours of their quarantine status being determined by either the vet or whomever, that they are to notify the sheriff's office in writing within 24 hours of that information, and then the sheriff's office would then notify the bitee. Is that right?
Right. We didn't want the owner of the dog to contact the victims.
Well, or they wouldn't even know how in most cases.
Yeah. Well, and frankly, it's kind of like having a victim and perpetrator.
Yeah.
You know, when the perpetrator wants to write the apology letter, you know, can I just apologize to him? And they don't care, and they don't want to hear it, so.
Right.
You tell them what you think I need to tell them.
So what we put on our animal bite report is following the quarantine period. So now any unvaccinated animals will be quarantined at the animal shelter or the vet. Following the quarantine period, an animal shall be examined by a licensed veterinarian and properly vaccinated at the owner's expense. The owner shall submit written proof from a licensed veterinarian of the vaccination and health status of the animal to the sheriff's office within 24 hours following the quarantine period. And the deputies then.
So we'll incorporate that language, and then I'll incorporate the language that a representative from the sheriff's office or even public health will notify the individual who was bitten of that status.
Well, we're definitely getting closer. Obviously, we're not here to just punish everybody that's got a flippant dog. We just wanna clean this up, so.
That's the hard part.
And we've had people come in here to the board and have conversations because they didn't like dogs walking down the street when their kids were out. You know, it's like, that's,
We had
nothing we can do about that.
one woman, she said
Don't
the
go out.
dog
That's
goes
why
out
I
on the
people
road,
complain about
crosses
my
the
dog.
top
Stay home.
and barks at her.
Said, did it ever come across the road? Oh, no.
No.
Did it ever come around the green?
No, but it barks.
And she says, but I want it removed.
Well, we have a neighbor that our dog doesn't live in our yard, she just doesn't. I don't bite them in the She won't leave, but we have a lady who walks her dog on the other side of the road. You need to put her inside. I'm like, she's in my yard.
Yeah.
Why don't you take a different route?
Now, my dogs have never been barkers unless there was a major issue. Well, the guy who bought the house next to us decided to tear all the trees off his property, so now everything's wide open. And I've got one that goes to the fence every morning and just sits there and barks at him. Because he's never seen a house over there before. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, check it out.
Activity over
Yeah,
there.
and he's got a couple dogs over there. And he's happy, but yeah. So I'm constantly going out there, shut up, get inside.
My dog only barks if another dog walks by at dinner time.
You aren't getting my food.
I like you around my food.
Exactly. She'll just run around to the front door, and then they're like, all right, give me my chicken. Well, I'll go ahead and make these changes, and then we can just look at it one more time, and we can maybe figure out how to do whatever else.
I think that's gonna help a lot. I mean, like I said, that was the one thing, because we'd all talked and agreed.
Well, and it's
We were
written
gonna-
really
Yeah, we were gonna all go
ambiguously.
vicious and have it quarantined and probably have it euthanized. I mean, we were
Well,
almost
because the
certain on
thing
that.
is, the
and then-
code treats a potentially dangerous dog different, I mean, the ordinance treats them differently in whether or not you can keep them and that sort of thing, so, Because if it's determined to be potentially dangerous, then you can keep them, you can pen them up, you can do what, do all of those things. But yeah, then it's kind of limited as far as vicious. So yeah, I'll just clean up that language. Because the way that one is, it's written in such a way that you would assume that second
You have to have that
offense
second,
had
yeah.
to have occurred before you could do that, and I don't think that was necessarily the intent.
And I don't even know that I care about the second offense. I mean, if he comes in and says this is the second time this has happened, okay. But it have to go in front of the board a second time, and that's just, by the time you
It's
get
just
that-
worded better.
Yeah.
This morning, we had all that, eating them animals up down there.
Well, and then a vicious one shouldn't even require a second offense.
No,
You
no.
should just.
Yeah, vicious should be just, you have
We
a
think
vicious
this is
attack.
bad enough that
then it's
we
time
don't
to-
want
Sorry, sir.
yeah.
That's my phone.
I was like, what is that noise?
It's a 50-year-old
Activity, so he sits there, he's always looking.
radio
If they have a dog,
show.
and he sees it come out to the end of the driveway, he sits
I got a
there.
message on
Work for you, Kevin?
What's that?
Does that all work for you? Does that like it?
Yeah, the,
Trucking down the road.
just to leave that discretion in there, I think is important.
That's a Labrador.
That's my lap.
Yeah, that's why you
91 pound.
when you go it down too much, you're gonna end up.
it. 91 pounds, huh?
Kevin is all fast.
What is
It's
it?
all like the black aren't going anywhere.
My 91 pound Labrador,
You down.
somehow she thinks my lap is big enough to hold her body.
Well, she knows once you get there, you're not going anywhere.
Now, this is more how